Hello to all of you and welcome to the summer presentation of Social Work 290, a special issues class in the Social Work Department entitled Understanding Family Violence. This is a 10-week course this semester, although the course is put together for a 15-week period, and my obligation is to present all of this material to you in the shortened summer semester for which you've signed up. So you can expect to be working at, I guess, time and a half is what it amounts to over the course of the next 10 weeks as we explore this particular topic. I want to applaud your decision to enroll in this class. This is a subject that all individuals going into the social work profession and human services work should be very familiar with, because without a doubt you will have clients who are either victims or perpetrators of some form of family violence or both. Now, this course goes beyond strictly looking at family relationships and also includes other forms of interpersonal violence of an intimate nature, such as intimate partner violence when individuals are not married, for instance, and those kinds of things. And so we're really going to be taking a good look at the whole topic of domestic violence, child abuse and neglect, intimate partner violence, elder abuse, and so on throughout the next several weeks. I want to tell you that this material is not easy to digest because it's a difficult area, even among students who have taken many other courses and who have addressed the issues of violence and many of the issues that social work clients face, when you start looking in depth at issues about child abuse and neglect and family violence and spousal abuse and sexual abuse and things like that, it sometimes can be very wearing on you psychologically. And one of the things I would encourage you to do over the course of the semester is to find someone that you're close with, that you can sit down and from time to time maybe talk about some of the things that you're learning in this course. It's worth the time and effort to establish a relationship with someone with whom you can process some of this material as you work through it. Not a lot of people in our lives really want to hear these things. Most of us go through our lives, including many social workers, really unaware of the prevalence of domestic violence and child abuse and neglect in our society. It is a likelihood that it's occurring in your block, in your neighborhood, maybe next door to you. Hopefully not in your own home, but for some of you this has also probably been the case. And so as we work through these topics, it's bound to stir up some things within us that make the study a little more difficult. And so it's good to have somebody that you might be able to talk with from time to time to kind of help you process some of the feelings that are likely to get stirred up, even if you don't want to talk about the very personal aspects of that. So first, my name is Bill Galic. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I have been licensed in the state of Alaska to practice clinical social work. I think since the late 1980s is when I passed my social work exam. I have a master's degree in social work from Florida State University in 1983, and also have a bachelor's from Michigan State University in 1974. If you do the math with those dates, you can probably figure out that I'm around retirement age, and indeed, that's something that has happened recently for me. I have spent 40 years in the social work profession, and in some various programs such as public assistance and food stamp programs, and also working for a period of time in outpatient mental health here in Alaska as a therapist, and about 8 years as a counselor and then a counseling supervisor on the campus of a rather large children's home in Central Florida, where children were placed when they were removed from their families because of abuse or neglect. And over the last many years, I've been a supervisor for the Kenai office of the Office of Children's Services, and particularly focusing upon the investigation of reports of child abuse and neglect. So there's some more information about my bio in the Start Here section of the class if you want to know a little more about me, but I won't bore you with all the other details. But suffice it to say that I've been around for a while, and really more than half of my career has very specifically focused upon issues related to family violence. And so this is a course that I think I have some basis for teaching and some expertise in the topic, and I hope that I can share some of my knowledge with you. Now you see there's two email addresses there. The first is the university email address. The university does prefer that you communicate with me through that email address because of privacy concerns. However, I will also tell you that you're more likely to get my attention more quickly at my home email address. I do check my university email address pretty frequently. I check my home email address many times a day, and so you can also expect the same kind of privacy there because there's no one else checking my email. This is my own personal email address, and so you'll have the same level of privacy there as you will in the university. But again, just for the sake of telling you this, the university prefers you communicate with me through the edu address. I'm happy to receive emails at home. You also have my cell and home numbers. I would suggest to you that the best way to get a hold of me, though, is going to be through email. It's usually more reliable and more expeditious, I think. Your textbook is, if you have it, kind of a fat book and a little daunting when you look at it. It's, 600 some pages, and it looks like a survey textbook in that it covers many different topics. And in fact, it is something of a survey textbook in that it really looks at the broad issue of family violence, across the lifespan, as the title says, so that it covers more than any other book that I've been able to find on the market thus far. This really covers this topic and the many different types of abuse and neglect that individuals in interpersonal relationships and intimate personal relationships experience. I will add that I have brought in some outside readings to cover some of the material that I really think need to be covered in this class that aren't addressed in this textbook so well, and that is the role that some other kinds of problems such as mental health issues and substance abuse issues and criminality and so on play in family violence and how they figure into this problem. So you'll be doing some outside reading as well, some web-based readings and some other articles that I will post in the class for you in addition to the readings in the text. And I will tell you also, by the way, don't be too troubled by the appearance of the reading, which has a lot of tables and graphs or statistics and things. We won't be so much looking at those numbers, and you're not going to be memorizing those things, as we're going to be looking at the implications of those tables and statistics. And so I think the course is going to be much more concept based than it may appear when you look at the book. Now, the course syllabus is on the website, is on Blackboard, and if you look at the course menu, you'll find the syllabus listed there. And I would encourage you very strongly to print out a copy. The very first thing in that link is a Word attachment, which is the syllabus itself. And I really want to encourage you to print out a hard copy of that syllabus and keep it with you for a number of different reasons. But we're going to go through this syllabus now, as I want to be sure that you've been exposed to the information that's here. Some people do better reading this stuff, but I also think it's helpful if you, if I go over it with you, and perhaps if you have it printed out, have it handy and read along with me. First of all, in general, your points are going to be earned according to the kind of the setup that I have set here, where you get some points for participation and attendance, and I'll talk about that in a minute because this is an online course. It's asynchronous. We don't have any meetings anywhere. We don't have eLive or Collaborate meetings. We're not scheduled to be together at any time during the semester, but there are still ways that I can judge attendance and participation and award points for that, and I'll explain that to you. We have discussion boards, which you will participate in discussions with your fellow classmates throughout the semester. This is primarily discussion between you and your classmates in the discussion boards. Occasionally I will chime in with some comments and observations as well in those discussion boards. I do read those discussion boards, but I consider the discussion boards really your area to discuss the topics that I put in front of you with your classmates more than with me. If you go down to the 3 items below there, no, I'm sorry, right below it, I missed it, e-scrapbook entries, your journals, and this is where it really is kind of a current events thing. And for those of you that have had other courses with me, you're familiar with this particular task. And what you're going to be doing is scanning the news and looking for items related to this topic. This is domestic violence. This is family violence. This would include, might include things like sexism and patriarchy, because a lot of that kind of underlies violent behavior within family relationships and sexual assaults and things like that. Any of the array of topics that relate to this particular topic of interpersonal, intimate partner violence will be sufficient for this. And there's a lot in the news about this. You might find it in the newspaper. You might find it in magazines. You may find it on the web. It might be on the news on television or on the radio. And I'll tell you a little bit about how you do these journals. But one thing that's different about the journals from the discussion boards is that these journals are private journals between you and me. So this gives you, first of all, an opportunity in your reaction to perhaps react a little more a little more openly or honestly than you might in the discussion board, although, I'll just leave it at that, and also give you an opportunity to raise any other issues with me that you may feel you need to raise about the content of the material and maybe what's happening with you because of the readings or whatever. So that's your journal entries. Those are worth 100 points, and the discussion board 100 points, so that you have one of each every week, and it's worth 10 points. And I'll tell you how to get those points in a minute. The big project during the semester is your group project, and you'll be grouped with altogether probably 4 people, 3 or 4 people, maybe 5 in your group, and you'll do a paper together, and I'll explain that to you a little bit later on. And this is something you can do. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to go meet anywhere. It's very possible to do this within the structure of Blackboard itself. Because of the fact that groups seem to have procrastinators that like to wait until the last minute, the 11th hour, to get things done. And if you're one of those people, be aware of the fact that when you're in a group project, you drive everybody else in that group crazy because they can't get you to engage, and they don't know whether they should do your part of the work or whether they should wait for you to do your share of the work, and they worry about what happens if they don't do that part of the work and you don't show up and all those things. And so we have group check-ins built in so that I am sure that you understand that you are to be checking in with your group different times during the semester, not just right at the end, but that I expect you to check in relatively early with your fellow group members and to exchange email addresses, phone numbers, those kinds of things, so that you can communicate back and forth and kind of get a sense of what you're going to do. And also before the paper is submitted, that you are actually submitting work to that group in the group site, and you'll have to do these check-ins in the group site in order to get credit. More about that later, but each group check-in is worth 20 points, so there'll be 2 of them. I'll give you the dates for those check-ins, 2 of those during the semester. When the group project is done, you will submit your discussion, your papers to me through your group site, and then I'll read them and grade them and return them to you in your group site. But I'll also post your paper in a discussion board forum, and the rest of the class can read your paper, and you can read the other papers in the class as well. At this point, and this could increase depending upon enrollment, but at this point, this is an additional 20 points in a class, 10 points, just like a regular discussion board, 10 points each. It's looking like we'll have 2 groups. We might have 3. We'll just see as between now and the time that we're actually underway. Finally, there are 2 tests during the semester, one mid-semester for 40 points, the other at the end, which covers the entire semester for 60 points. And I'll tell you more about those tests in a few moments, but these are a little easier than you might think, or a little more user-friendly at least. You will also have, so there's 560 points total there. That is, if you get 560 points, you have 100% in this class. Now, as you total all those up above there. Now, in addition to that, I will put in 3 additional discussion boards. So some weeks we'll have 2 discussion boards, and in those weeks where there are 2 boards, you can choose to respond to one or the other, either one or both. If you respond to both, then you're getting bonus points, but you can, if you don't feel like it or you don't think you need the bonus points, you can pick either one of them. It doesn't matter. One is not required, the other optional, but there will be 3 extra discussion boards, so that would give you up to 30 points extra. My advice to you is always participate in both discussion boards, because even if you don't think you're going to need those points, later in the semester you may wish you had them, and it will be too late to get them then. Okay, so and I'll also tell you that if you let Blackboard tell you what your grade is, it's going to really give you a lot of consternation, because Blackboard just can't quite figure me out, or I can't figure Blackboard out. I don't know which, but particularly these bonus points, it confuses Blackboard, and it tells you have a 0, which, on a project, which is an F, but really what it means, and that 0 would be if you only choose one of the 2 discussion boards, for instance. The second discussion board, Blackboard says you have a 0 on it, and really all it means is you don't get any points because you didn't do anything in the discussion board. It doesn't mean you got an F, it just means you're not getting points. So don't worry about the percentages that Blackboard tells you. Keep track of your total points versus how many points you could have, and that will tell you how you're doing. So here's the grading scale in the course syllabus. As you can see, this is a standard university 90%, 80%, 70%, 60% for your grades. Steady, regular involvement in posts, and your regular posts in your group website, for example, are the kinds of things that give me participation and attendance. Blackboard tells me when you've checked in. I can look, in the Grade Center and see when the last time is you looked in the class. That doesn't necessarily tell me you did anything, but it at least tells me you've looked in there. But there's other ways, from reading your posts, from for instance, do you just go in and make a post, or do you actually get involved in some discussions with your fellow classmates? Are you really participating and working in your group, or are you just kind of making an appearance so that you get the points for the appearance? Those kinds of things. Are you processing this stuff, or can I tell, for instance, from your discussion board posts, which will be in response to a question that connects to the reading for that week, can I really tell from your posts that you've read the material, or are you kind of just posting off of something somebody else said, which doesn't tell me anything? These are the kinds of things. If I can really see that you're in there, you're reading, you're listening to the lectures, and you're fully participating in things, that's how you get your full 50 points here. Now, for discussion boards, as I said, reading assignments are posted on Sunday mornings, and I'll get to that in a second. This is a little out of sequence, actually, but when you get a discussion board question, you respond to that by creating a thread in the discussion board forum, and you respond to that question in a response that is called an original post, and that original post should be at least 150 words. That's not a lot. That's just a couple paragraphs, short paragraphs, really. I encourage you to write more, but that is the minimum, okay, for full credit here. And then you're going to go back in a few days later and read your classmates' original posts and respond to a couple of them. And they can be shorter. Those responses don't have to be 150 words, but they should be meaningful. In other words, they're not like, yeah, I agree, or no, I think you're wrong, and that's all you say, but that you actually respond to what the person says, and you share some of your own thoughts about that particular opinion. Again, it doesn't have to be 150 words, but something that shows that you're really thinking about this and discussing it with the person who made the original post. Now, in your discussion boards, for those of you that aren't familiar with them, when you create a thread, you have an opportunity to do what is called subscribing to the thread. There's a button that says subscribe to this thread, or subscribe, something like that. And if you click that, Blackboard will send you an email to your university address now whenever somebody responds to your post. So then you can, if you want to, you can go back in and respond again to their post, and that will count towards 2 of your own responses to classmates' posts, by the way. So you can really get a discussion going. And the discussion boards, may be graded and done with, but that doesn't mean you have to stop discussing things. If you really get into a topic with somebody, keep talking about it. I've seen some semesters where I've had some very impressive discussions going on among students during the course of the semester, and really you could see that it was beyond the students wanting to get the grade, but that they were really interested in this topic and what each other were saying. And I encourage you to use the discussion boards this way, because you're going to find that you'll learn things from me, I hope, and from the readings. But you're going to learn a lot from each other too. And the more you participate in this, the more that will happen. So just to kind of get ahead of myself a little bit, each week there is what we call a learning unit, and so each week has a learning unit, and with its own assignments and with its own lectures and with its own discussion board question and its own journal posting. You're supposed to do those kinds of things, and so every learning unit opens up on a Sunday morning. So at 12:05 a.m. Sunday morning each week during the semester, there will be a new learning unit opening up for the following week. You should make every effort to complete all of your work for that learning unit within that week. You can't wait until the end of the semester to do this work, because you're going to get way far behind, and you're going to miss the fact that you're supposed to be participating every week in this. This isn't a kind of thing where we just go in and do the work whenever we feel like it. We're working together, and we're working together within every week. So you have your choice of when you go into your class, whether you want to work on Sundays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays or every day of the week or one day of the week. I guess it doesn't really matter in the end, but what does matter is that you get that work done within that week. So every week that's sort of your boundaries for your freedom of choice as far as when you do your work. All right, so Sunday morning, a new learning unit opens up. There's a question when you go to the discussion board link in the learning unit. You'll see it there as you flip through some of the pages in the learning unit. You'll find a question. You read the question, and then you should go ahead and do your readings in the class first, listen to the lectures first, and then go back by the following Sunday night and make your original post to that question. So 150 words or more, original post to that question after you have worked through the material in the learning unit. Then by the following Thursday after that Sunday night, so this is like 11 days maybe after the learning unit has opened, you should have gone back in and responded to at least 2 of your classmates' original posts and discussion boards. So your original post by the following Sunday, and your response to the classmates' post by the Thursday after that. So that's, like I say, about 11 days later. And then what I do generally is go in and do the grading the weekend after that. So if you're in week, say for instance, you've done week 3 discussion boards. I have dates in here, but let me just talk about another way. Week 3's discussion boards you get done by, it would be Thursday in week 4 is when they're all done, after everybody has had that week to read, make the post, and then the following half a week to respond to classmates' posts. The following weekend then is when I do the grading. So your week 3 discussion board post would actually be graded week 5. You see that I'm usually a week or 2 behind, because I want to get everybody's posts in before I grade them. So you'll see how it works if I'm confusing you now. But your original post plus 2 responses earn you 10 points altogether. So there are specifics spelled out in an item called Board and Journal Grading Guidelines, which clearly show you how you earn a full 10 points and how you earn less than 10 points in your discussion board responses. Now your current events post, this is your journal really, includes you go out, you find this news item, this current event, and you write in your journal post, in your journal spot, which is another link in the weekly course content, like the discussion board. It's another one. You go in there. This is the private one between you and me. You summarize the current event. You also should include the title, where you got this, what your source was, and everything. A brief summary of what the article or the news item was about, and then a reaction of about 150 words in a separate paragraph. That's your reaction to that. Again, this is a private post. This is worth 10 points. So again, 10 of them throughout the semester. That's 100 points altogether for your journals. And this is like current events. And so this isn't something that you can go back 4 weeks later and do, because it's not current anymore. And I really don't want 5 current event posts in 1 week. I want you looking, the point is that you are looking at news all semester long so that you understand that this is alive, this is real, that you see these things going on around you. This is kind of the way to make sure you understand this is a very lively and topic. And so I need you doing this throughout the semester. And so if you post, I might not even give you a grade depending upon how late it is, but if you post late, you probably won't get as many points as you would originally. So between the discussion boards, 10 of them for 10 points each, and your journals, 10 of them for 10 points each, altogether that's 20 points a week times 10 weeks, 200 points altogether there. And again, there is a, I think it's this week's learning unit actually, there is a title, or there's a page said how your posts will earn points, and it has some guidelines about writing discussion boards, and also has an example of an excellent journal entry. And this is the format that I want you to use for journals. And if you do this and do it right, you'll get your 10 points as long as you're posting on time every week. So, and also there's a menu item with board and journal grading guidelines that has some items that essentially repeat some of the things that are in this week's learning unit. Now your group research project, what I'm going to do is, and again, those of you who have had this class before, other classes with me know how this, well, this may be a little different depending upon which class you've had with me. But this is another kind of current issues project that I do here. And what I'll do is I'm going to find 2 or 3 controversial topics, and I'm going to assign groups of 3 or 4 of you to these topics. I might make these smaller groups so we get an extra paper in there. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But in any event, 1 or 2 of you will be assigned to. I'll have a topic. Let me just say, the topic might be, should. This is off the subject of family violence, and so this won't be the topic. But let's just say a question such as should men be allowed to go to college classes without shirts on? and I will assign 1 or 2 of you to research the yes side of that answer, and 1 or 2 of you to assign the no side of that answer. Yes, men should be allowed to go shirtless in college. No, men should not be allowed to go shirtless. Now, that's a trite kind of example, but this is what essentially how the project's going to be structured. And so this is not intended to be a persuasive paper. I want to stress this. You are not going to be writing to try to convince somebody that you're right and the other side is wrong. What you're doing is you're gathering the research or the evidence out there that supports whatever position you have, yes or no. And it may not be a position. You may think the opposite of what is assigned to you, but the point of this is that this is research. This is not opinion. So it doesn't matter what you think or what you feel about this topic, and some of these topics may have some, kind of moral implications to you that may make it difficult to research the opposite side, but you're researching the evidence on the other side. And there are some guidelines again about how you pick your sources in this week's topic, and again I think in the guidelines in the course menu as well. And so you and maybe one other person will research the yes or no side of this topic. 1 or 2 other people will research the no side of the topic, and the 3 or 4 of you will have one site that I give you in Blackboard called your project group site, where you'll have some tools to use to communicate with each other. A file exchange, discussion board, a private discussion board that is for you. I get to see what you're doing, but I mean otherwise the rest of the class isn't involved in it. You get each other's emails and things like this, and so you have a place to really kind of trade and exchange your work and communicate back and forth. You will submit one paper together, and this is something that your group's going to have to decide is who's the better writer, or how do you want to do this if that's the case. The paper should be unified. It should not be 4 separate pieces or 4 separate papers. It should be one paper, and the yes side and the no side should be clearly identified as headings. Yes and such, yes, men should be allowed to go shirtless in college classrooms. No, men should not be allowed to go shirtless, and then have have the topics, have that title or that label, whatever, at the beginning of the yes section, the beginning of the no section, so the reader knows clearly where we're at with this. You're not trying to convince anybody, you're presenting the evidence on each side. And so that the reader gets to read the best research, the best evidence out there, balanced and objective now evidence, and can make an informed decision for himself or herself about the topic. So that's the point of this, okay? So one paper between the four of you, and that's why I say start early and respond to your group mates' emails and posts in your group site. Do not procrastinate. Try not to be too compulsive either. I mean, because you can be the opposite of a procrastinator and drive everybody nuts because you want to have everything done before the end of the first week or something. Relax a little bit and let people work at your pace, but try to work together. And to do so, you'll find you're going to have a great project when you're done. You'll have learned a lot about the topic you're given, and your classmates will also learn from you because they're going to read your paper and you're going to read theirs. And so this is a good project. I think you'll appreciate what happens here. So I told you about the check-ins, and there will be 2 dates that I will inform you of once I've assigned the topics. And I'll assign these topics in a couple of weeks. This is a 10-week session, so I can't, it's going to have to happen fairly soon. And I'll give you 2 points where I'm going to go into your group site, and I'm going to have to see evidence that you have been in there, exchanging information about yourself, how to contact you, whatever it is, exchanging information that you have, talking about the research you're doing, whatever. I want to see that you're in there communicating with your fellow group members on a regular basis throughout this project. And so there'll be 2 dates that you'll know that I go in. And if you're there and evidence has been there that you're doing that, then you'll get 20 points each time. You might get a little less if I'm seeing that you're not really contributing much, just saying hi and leaving. But you get the idea here, okay? By the way, last semester. A couple of students were communicating with each other, text messaging and not working through the group site, and I can't give you credit for that, because for all I know, one student's been doing all the work and the other one has been slacking, and the other student's, carrying that person or something. So I need to see your participation in the group site itself. So after the group papers are completed, as I said, I'm going to post now not the one with my markups and my grades on it, but I'm going to post your own paper, your final copy, in a discussion board forum, and then the rest of the class can read it, and you'll have a regular discussion going, and in your own paper as well as the other group's papers. You can score up to 10 points for participating in discussion. Same rules: original, post plus 2 responses equal 10 points. So that's 20 points. My tests, mostly multiple choice or true false, and they will be multiple choice or true false. The first is 40 questions, the second is 60. I think you get like an hour in the first one. I forget how long you have in the second one, whether it's 90 minutes or 2 hours, I don't know. But the thing is, it's an open book test. You don't have to go anywhere for it. It's not proctored, so you can sit at your computer and look up all the answers in the index. But if you haven't read the book, you're probably not going to be able to do very well doing that, because it's a timed test, and at the end of that 60 minutes or whatever, the test closes, and you can't go back in and finish it later. You can't start it and then say, "Ooh, I need to do some reading first," and then shut it down and read and then go back in, because when you shut it down, that's your attempt. You understand? So once you've opened it, you have to finish the test. You'll have 60 minutes or 90 or however time it is to finish it, and then that's that. So you're going to be far better off having read and listened to the lectures. You'll do well in these tests. If you haven't read and listened to lectures, you're going to have a little more of a struggle with these. If you're not happy with the first result, your first test, you can take it a second time. The questions will be different. But some of them will be anyway. Some of them may be the same, but it will be a different test. But you can retake the test, and the higher of your 2 scores is the one that will be put in the grade center for you. Okay, you and your classmates will have different tests side by side, because Blackboard is going to randomize the questions. There's a large pool that they're pulling these questions from, and so the odds of anybody having too many questions that are like the ones that their classmates have are pretty slim. So this is kind of how you make sure that people aren't passing answers back and forth and all that. So I shouldn't. This is a university classroom, and if well, there's a lot of prohibitions against cheating and plagiarism and everything. I mean, it's in the syllabus, but really, this is your education. You're paying for it, and if somebody would be foolish enough to try to just kind of fake their way through a course and not participate in it just to get the grade, I can't imagine throwing that kind of money away for something like that. So really, I just don't think I'm going to have to worry about this. But don't miss the test closing date. That's something I wanted to tell you. I think the tests opened in week 5 and week 10, week 9, week 10, I think, something like that. Anyway, you'll know when they're opening, and the test opens on a Thursday, so that if it's say it's week 5, the test opens, or week 4, the test opens on June 19th. That's a Thursday in that learning unit, and so when you open the learning unit up on Sunday, you'll see a page that says the test is going to be here on Thursday in this spot. And then when you go back on Thursday, there'll be the test there. You can take the test, and you take it right in Blackboard, right there. You have 11 days where you will see that test visible in the learning unit. And so when the next learning unit comes up, the test won't be in the next learning unit. It's still in the original learning unit, but it will be there and be open for 11 days. And so the test opens up on Thursday morning of one learning unit and ends not that following Sunday night, but the Sunday night after that, 11 days later. And so actually it's 2 learning units later by that time, but so you have 11 days to take your test, and if the test closes, it won't be there when you go for it. And so if you don't take it during that 11 days, you're out of luck. I can't reopen the test for you. So please make sure you take the test, and don't wait until the last minute. I have to say this because it seems like something that happens with some regularity. Blackboard decides to crap out on you, perhaps, on a Sunday night. That seems like IT wants to use Sunday nights for maintenance efforts, and so since our tests close on Sunday nights, sometimes students wait until the last minute to go in to take the test. Don't do that, really. I mean, try to take it earlier than that, and if it doesn't go well, you still have time to go back and get another one. I mean, if something happens and Blackboard really kind of cheats you somehow, I can tell generally by looking at what you've done. I can see what you've entered and everything when I go in and look. If somehow some sort of technical glitch occurs, let me know, and I'll try to help you with that, and and try to fix things. But this should not be a problem. This is a pretty easy process, technologically speaking, and just don't wait until the last minute, okay? 3 extra discussion boards during the semester, up to 10 points each for that. So that's over and above the, I say, 640 points on this slide, and I think that's wrong. I always try to see, I change things around. It's 560 points, so it's over and above the 560 points total. I change these things and fix them, and there's still places I don't fix them. Your course opens to announcements, and so always have a habit first when you open your course to look and see if there's any new announcements from me. This is sort of like me standing up in front of the class and saying, before we get started, I want to tell you, X, Y, and Z. That's what that is. When I write an announcement, I also have Blackboard send you an email with that same information in it. So 2 things about that. First off, if you see announcements posted and they're not getting to you in email, there's something wrong with your university email and you need to talk to IT. I have that happen sometimes with students. But secondly, this also says to you, check your email very faithfully, very regularly. I would go in at least twice a week, if not more frequently. Please get into that habit and maintain that habit throughout the semester. Not only I will be trying to reach you through announcements and things about the course, but your group members will also be writing to you there, your fellow group members, and you really owe them the courtesy of responding. So pay attention to your email, please. Once you've checked announcements, you're going to go to the left and click on weekly course content. That item is where each learning unit is in, and you'll see it really clearly, week 1, week 2, week 3, and then you click on the learning unit you want to work on. Now, the learning units will open up week by week, and so you don't have the whole semester there. But once the learning unit is open, it will stay open to you all semester, so you can go back and pull slides off of things or look at what people have written or even write a little more in a discussion board if you want to, or whatever. But each week's content will become available to you 12:05 a.m. Sunday morning. And remember to read every slide every week. I had a student a few years ago tell me about 6 weeks into a semester that he didn't realize there was more than one slide. Wow. What? I don't know how that's possible, but it's actually what happened. And well, so you can bet he wasn't doing very well with his scores. He wasn't participating in discussion boards and all sorts of things. And so really, there's a whole series of slides every week, and so be sure you review every slide. And also, I want to tell you, I'm writing the opening and closing slides there, as well as writing a little bit in each of the others. But really, please read them. I mean, this is hoping that you can draw some things from the things that I say, in addition to the things that you hear in a lecture and what is in the text. The rules of Netiquette are fairly obvious, and I think the thing I want to tell you about here is just to remind you that and I think this is something that you all know very well, that maybe my generation really had to learn the hard way, and that is that people can't read your body language and tell your tone of voice and see how your eyes are, acting when you talk. And so, there's no facial expressions, there's no body language, and so we just have words. And plain words are open to all sorts of different kinds of interpretations depending upon the moods of the reader and the context of the writing and all sorts of things. And so please keep that in mind. Always try to be respectful in your communications. If you disagree with people, it's okay to talk about your disagreement, but never attack the person or their integrity or their intelligence or their backgrounds or anything like that in doing so. Remember, this is a real person on the other end, and this is another thing that can happen sometimes with online education is that you forget that you're not communicating with somebody who, you're not communicating with a little paragraph, because that's what you see. You're communicating with a real person who has real feelings, and so we have to be very, very careful about how we express ourselves in these postings. Of course, we never want to threaten or be abusive of anybody in postings, and the university does want to know when those things happen, and we'll deal with that if it comes up. And I have to say happily that has never happened, but certainly if somebody is saying or doing something that is threatening to you or disturbing to you, please let me know if I'm missing it. But also try to be forgiving of people, and because a lot of times we don't always realize the impact of our statements. So there's a whole set of other rules about Netiquette that's in this week's weekly course content also, so read through them and try to practice these things as you go along. Another thing I would like to say about communicating here is that this is a college classroom. This isn't like I was going to say MSN, but that's dated about 10 years ago, so it's not a tech. We're not tweeting each other here, I guess, to be current about things. This isn't Facebook, and so don't use text abbreviations. Don't no LOLs or LMAOs or anything like that. Please, let's communicate as college students and in an academic environment here. So use real words. Watch your spelling. Please check your spelling and try to and the syntax in your sentences. I mean, again, you're communicating in a discussion board, and I don't want it to be stilted, but by the same token, I really don't want to have to spend time trying to figure out what the heck is this person trying to say. This is a college classroom. We should be able to express ourselves verbally and in writing with some skill. Okay, so keep that in mind, please. So your first discussion board, and again, forgive me for those of you that have had my class before, you've done the same exercise, but this is really for your classmates more than for me. Introduce yourself to your classmates, and here's some ideas of how you're going to go about telling us about yourself. I would encourage you to consider, if you can, post a picture. Not a requirement, but it does help to humanize the name, and so that we get an idea who it is that we're communicating with. It doesn't have to be a picture of you, really. It can be a picture of somebody you like. It can be a picture of some place you've been. Whatever you want to make it of, your favorite food, however. But photographs sometimes, and not only in this post, but any post, sometimes photographs really can add to a post. And so think about doing that from time to time, and in this particular post in particular, but it's not required. Just what is required, 150 words or more, and then 2 responses later on to your classmates' posts. So for this week, you're going to look for a current event also for your journal entry. You can look at current events related to micro issues about family violence and child abuse and things like that, or macro issues about court decisions or violence in society, or people's beliefs about family relationships and things like that. And so here's some a number of examples of what you might be looking for in the news, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. But do try to make your posts relevant to the topic. And one thing I want to ask you to do is try to avoid writing week after week after week after week about the bizarre people that are out there. Like there was a woman in Utah, was it, or somewhere, that murdered 6 children, in 2014. I was tired of looking at journal entries about that. It's really, it's kind of bizarre. Maybe you hear about it once or something is one thing, but really, okay, so it's a mental health issue, perhaps. Maybe it's about child abuse. Certainly, it's about child abuse. But really, does it help us at all to look at this and to scratch our heads and say, what's going on with this woman? It really doesn't. So try to make the post useful, something that causes you to think about some issue or to identify some concern in society that really needs our attention as social workers, and let's try to keep it on that level. Again, check announcements regularly. This is where I communicate with you, and check your university email address. Well, I say every day, at least twice a week, somewhere in between that, to make sure that you have the information that you need. So that's it for this week. Next week's learning unit, which would be week 2, will open at 12:05 a.m. Sunday morning. So again, I'm glad you're with me, and I hope that you find this semester, and it's going to be kind of double timing it throughout the summer, but I think you'll find that it will be very worthwhile. It'll be worth the effort. You're going to get a lot of great information this summer in this class, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about it as well as the semester goes along. So welcome aboard, and we'll be talking more as the semester goes by. Thanks.